Hello, everybody, and welcome to whatever I'm gonna call this. I'm not really sure. My name is the Man with No Game, or Tyler, as you can call me. We're all friends here. We're all friends here. Just call me by my first name. But yeah. So what is this? I don't really know. I just sort of started. I wanted to off to a great start here. Can't even talk. I just wanted to sort of talk about what I've been up to recently. Talk about the games I've been playing mostly. We'll get to that in a second. But the idea for this is, I figured it'd be sort of similar to Bill Burr's Monday Morning Podcast, if anyone's familiar. If you're not familiar, he just kind of rants to himself and about topics, whatever came up that week. But mine's going to be more about gaming, games I've played recently. I haven't really come up with a title for this. I don't know if it's going to be a one-off thing or if it's going to be a recurring, like actual sort of podcast thing. But yeah, today's going to be mostly about games I've played recently. But I don't really want to lock it into that, if I ever want to talk about other stuff in my life. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to call this sort of thing, but anyways, to get to it, the games I've been playing recently, I have been on a big Final Fantasy kick. Um Now Final Fantasy is a series that it sort of passed me by when I was younger. I was a PlayStation kid, so I probably should have played at least Final Fantasy 7 when I was younger, but I never did. I was always playing Metal Gear Solid, playing Resident Evil, I guess. Other stuff for normies, I suppose. I don't know. Um, but I don't know why I sort of out of the blue I had excuse me, got clear my throat there. I noticed I had Final Fantasy 15 in my Steam library maybe a month ago or so, and I said, "Hey, why the hell not? I'll play it." I'd heard some things from fans, and even people who aren't Final Fantasy fans. They don't really seem to like Final Fantasy 15 that much, and that surprises me because honestly, I loved Final Fantasy 15. I thought that game was absolutely incredible. Now that is I recognize there's a few things there. For one, it was my first Final Fantasy. Oh my god, I can't talk. This always happens. But yeah, I do recognize that it is my first Final Fantasy game, so that's obviously gonna introduce a bit of bias into my opinion on it. And I played it after all of its updates. And from what I understand, Final Fantasy 15, for being a single player game, had an incredible amount of post launch support. The kind of thing that you really mostly only see for multiplayer games. But yeah, from what I understand, there's quite a bit added. And then of course I had the DLCs included on the Steam edition, the episodes for each of the characters. And oh yeah, before I continue, I should say I'm going to be spoiling the shit out of Final Fantasy 15, as well as later in this I'm going to talk about Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 14, and the Final Fantasy 7 remake. So for all of those brand new releases, I guess the remake's pretty new, but for the other ones, just go play them all. They're all great, but um, yeah, still on FF15. What the hell was I talking about? Oh yeah, so yeah, I recognize that I'm coming at it from a different spot that most people who are fans of the series who played it day one are coming at it, but I thought it's one of the best games I've played recently. It's probably, in my opinion, one of the best games to come out. When did it come out? 2016? Sounds about right. 2015, 2016. I think it's one of the best games to come out in a few years for sure. It's definitely maybe the best open world game I've personally played, and in my personal opinion, obviously, since The Witcher 3, maybe. And there's a few reasons for that. For one, I really liked the car and how the car worked because since you didn't get to fast travel until you've been to a place, it really made the world feel a lot bigger sitting in the car while Iggy drives and I suspect lots of people probably complain about that, and I can definitely see why because it is a little like there's not a whole lot going on. You just kind of sit there, obviously, but it did a few things for me. For one, it made the world feel really big, like I just said. And that's a problem I have with a lot of open world games is there's just something weird. Like it doesn't feel like it's scaled correctly. I don't really know how else to explain it. The city in GTA 5, for example, like it should feel bigger than it does, but just for whatever reason, it feels tiny to me. Not the case with Final Fantasy 15 though. It feels fucking massive. So there's that. And then because of the travel taking so long all the times, it made me actually plan out my objectives. You know what side quests to tackle in what order. Make sure I get all my stuff before I head out. That sort of thing. It's not like too bad. It's not like Stalker or anything like that. Like it's not super punishing as a game, but it did make me think a bit more. It really, and to me that means it really used its open world properly. Whereas I feel like a lot of games they're open world because hey, that's what games are open world now. Haven't you heard? Every game is an open world game with basic bitch RPG elements and random collectibles and a mopey parent simulator story. That's every game nowadays. Ugh, I don't like the state of the modern game industry, but that's not what we're talking about here. Oh boy, I knew this was gonna happen. I knew I was gonna get sidetracked. I'm pretty ADD. I don't know if that's been apparent from any of my other videos, but I've never actually been diagnosed with anything. I should mention that, but I highly suspect it. And self-diagnosis is obviously very very stupid, and I don't like doing it, which is why, like I said, I always like to clarify that I just suspect it. I don't know for sure, but anyways, back on topic. Back on topic. Yeah. So the open world is great, and another thing that a lot of people I've seen state as a weakness, but to me is actually your strength, is I like how the second half of the story completely takes the open world away from you because that's just something that I don't think you'd ever see in an open world Western game. You know, an open world Western game is all about keeping player freedom, even if it doesn't make narrative sense. You know, you can always go and do all your side missions. You have the whole world to explore. But Final Fantasy 15 is like, no, it doesn't make any sense. You leave that area. The story requires you leave that area, so you're out of that area. So I like that they weren't afraid to play around with your access to the open world with that sort of thing. Um, so gameplay wise, I loved all that. The world is a little barren, I guess, but personally, I prefer the barren world to something like what comes to the top of my head is Assassin's Creed Unity. I don't know if if it's just me, but I know every time I try to play that game, and I've only beaten it once, but I've tried to play it again a few times recently. And you get into the world, you open your map, and you zoom out, and there's so many markers everywhere that you can't even see the goddamn map. Basically, it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. So I prefer the more pointed content in Final Fantasy 15. And the combat was pretty fun. It was shallow. Don't get me wrong, but there's just something really satisfying about beating up a target and then your whole squad comes over and just wrecks their shit. It's pretty good. There's a few enemies that were annoying that were a bit too damage spongy, like in the that dungeon that goes underground. Shit, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's like this big ruined tower, and you get to and you go underground and you fight a few enemies that are just that just take a whole lot of damage, and that was not very fun, but overall, it's a pretty fun combat system. I liked it more than the FF7 remastered combat, but I'll or remake I should say, but I'll get to that later. As for the story, I really like the story. It's I've seen it knocked knocked Noctis. Yes, very unintentional. Um, I've seen people talk down about the story, and I don't know if it's just because people are. The great thing about people is we all have different opinions and everything, right? So I don't know if it's just the shortcomings of the story didn't bother me personally, or if there was a massive amount added in post launch updates. But either way, I thought the story was great. The characters were great. Prompto is, unfortunately, I guess, one of the most relatable characters I think I've ever seen in a game for me personally. I mean, I can't say I was a clone created by an enemy empire or anything, but sort of his feelings towards himself and when he was younger and his insecurities, it hit a little more close to home than I'd like to admit, I guess. But um, so yeah, that was great. Ignis and Gladiolus were great. Gladiolus I liked during the story, but I definitely liked him a whole lot more after I played his independent episode. Same with same with Ignis, and I guess same with Prompto. But Prompto already I felt was developed enough, and his episode was the weakest of the DLCs in my opinion. Episode Arden was awesome. Episode Arden felt a bit like a prototype once you get into that little open world. Let me just take a drink of my orange juice. Love orange juice, man. But yeah. So characters are great. Um, Other than the main four and Arden, I guess I guess yeah. Outside of that main cast, they were kind of. I was gonna say kind of weak, but I guess not. Cindy and Sid are quite cool characters, as well as Gladiolus's sister. I liked Core, I think his name was. I kept thinking he was voiced by Troy Baker every time he's on screen, but it's actually Matt Mercer. He voiced Leon in Resident Evil 6 is what I was recognizing it from. He sounds remarkably like Troy Baker to me though, but um yes, that's all great. And the story of Noctis, I really liked his character arc. It reminded me a lot of at the very least movie Aragorn from The Lord of the Rings. Not so much book Aragorn, but movie Aragorn, in that he was sort of reluctant as a king. It really took him a lot of the game um to find himself, I guess. I don't really know where to. I don't know why my mind just emptied itself on that point, but yeah, that's also something I wasn't expecting, that 10-year time jump, and then Noctis just looks like a badass with his face. He actually looked a lot like Ezio to me once he had his beard and in that outfit he was in at the end of the game. But yeah, and I guess it's just something I wasn't expecting because I'm new to Final Fantasy, but I was really shocked by the scale of the whole game. The scale is incredible, and the soundtrack just made it feel even more epic. That fight with the Leviathan was awesome. I really liked the Final Fantasy 14 crossover mission where you have to take out the I don't know how you pronounce them, the Ixali or whatever, as they were trying to summon Garuda. That was a really cool mission. I think that was the first mission I where it sort of hit me just how epic in scale that game really is. But yeah, let's see what else is there to say about FF15. I guess what I'd say is give it another shot if you're somebody who didn't really like it that much, because I don't know, go into it with an open mind. Go with an open mind, and you might be surprised what you get out of it. So yeah, that game was great, and it got me to give Final Fantasy 14 Online a try. That's another one I've had in my Steam library for a bit. I'd been meaning to try it for a while, but I don't know, for whatever reason I just kept putting it off, and ended up just renewing my WoW subscription, I think, and then eventually I was just like, WoW is boring. It's boring now, so I'm gonna give FF14 a try, and I'm really glad I did. FF14 is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I put 90 hours. Well, it's a little embarrassing. I put 90 hours into it over the course of about 2.5 weeks. Not very healthy, I know, but what can I say? I got mad addicted. The story's pretty good. I'm not done the story yet. So if there's one complaint I have about it is the story is so padded. Holy shit. Like and the gap in quality between some of the story quests are astounding. Some quests are like, go talk to this guy, sweet, you complete it. Go talk to this guy, sweet, next quest. But then other quests, you're fighting literal gods with other players by your side in hell. You know, Titan. Titan? Is that the one I'm? Yeah, yeah. Titan's the one I'm thinking of, and then Ifrit before that. Like, so I want more quests like that. I don't want more talking to different people quests. The dungeons are quite good. Um, I like FF14 more than WoW because the towns and the locations actually feel like locations. You know, I don't really I don't like to play games for the most part with other people. Sometimes I play with my friends, but I don't really like interacting, I guess, with strangers online because I'm a shy boy. And so Final Fantasy 14 really feels to me like it can be played as a single player game, but it's just it's an MMO, so it's my kind of MMO, I guess. Yeah, what does it say about me? My kind of MMO is the MMO that can be played as a single player game. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, it's fantastic. I played as a I don't know how the fuck you pronounce it. It's the Thaumaturg or the Elemental Mage. That's what I'm gonna call it. And then obviously leveled up to a Black Mage. I think I'm like level 53, 54 right now. I burnt myself out a bit. I think I played it way too much. I haven't played in like a week or so, but I'll jump back in at some point. I'm sure, because it's quite good, and I really like how the class system works. How the job is differentiated by just what weapon you have equipped. So you're not locked into, like, I'm not locked into playing Black Mage. If I want to, I can go and learn different kinds of magic, or I think I can even become a melee character, and then you just have your different gear sets, and that's all it takes, and that's really cool. That's awesome. Um, God, and just to think, there's probably some people that have characters where every single job is max leveled, and that's insanity to me to think of. That's a lot of time played, but yeah, it's really well designed, and I really do wish I had played it back when it was original FF14, just because from what I've heard, like obviously from what I've heard, it sounds terrible, but I wish I was around for the Cataclysm. I've seen videos of sort of the final hours of the old servers, and it looks like a blast. You know, it seems like it'd be something that's really cool to have been a part of. But whatever, whatever. That's fine. That's fine. I'm more than happy with the actually good game that we have now. So yeah, great game, great game. You'd think there'd be more to say about it, but I don't know. Even though I have 90 hours in it, I feel like I've only scratched the surface. You know, I'm not really confident to really take a deep analytical dive into FF14. But yeah, fantastic MMO if anyone's looking for one to try. Let me just take another OJ sip. Ah, fantastic. All right, and then yeah, I think that's the last of my thoughts on FF14. Yeah, yeah, I think that's it. So moving on to Final Fantasy VII. So my story with Final Fantasy VII is I first played it. I got it on Steam back in like God 2011, maybe 2012, 2013, called something like that. And I played it for like half an hour, dropped it, came back like a year later, played it for half an hour, dropped it, got it on PS4, played it again for like half an hour, dropped it, got it on Nintendo Switch shortly after I got the Nintendo Switch, and I actually played it quite a bit. I finished the Midgar section. I actually got to the cave with that big snake creature that Sephiroth killed right in front of it. So just very shortly after the Midgar section, and that was, I think, right around the time that the remake came out. And I had heard the remake was only the Midgar section, so I thought, oh, I'm done Midgar on the original. Why don't I just go and get the remake, and then when I'm done with the remake, I'll finish the original Final Fantasy VII. Which, spoiler alert, that's not what happened. But I'll continue my story. I went to the store. This was like a week after the game came out. I went to the store to get the remake, and the dude was like, "We got a limited edition in stock. Do you want that? Like the limited edition that comes with the steel book and the art book and the soundtrack CD." And I was like, "Fuck it, why not? I'll get the limited edition." Played it for about 10 minutes, and for whatever reason, dropped it. I enjoyed what I played, but for whatever reason, I just dropped it. I think I was in the middle of playing something else, and I was like, "I'll just finish that and then come back to the remake," and didn't. And then just a couple weeks ago, I started up FF7 on the PC again, got the Reunion mod installed, and played through it. And I was absolutely blown away by FF7. I have to say, I like I'd heard the story was great, but just from what I'd seen, from what I'd played, I said, the story's good, but it's just good. But no, after finishing it, it's pretty incredible. I'm at a loss for words, and to think it came out in '97 is absolutely insane. It's one of my favorite stories in gaming now. Probably, it's not my favorite. I'm a Metal Gear Solid fanboy. I mean, you can tell by the image I'm using for this little, I guess in quotes, podcast, I'll call it, that I'm recording here. It's a MGS image, but yeah, FF7. I'm tempted to say I'm an FF7 fanboy now, but yeah, no, I was just blown away, absolutely blown away. Sephiroth is cool. Yes, you heard it here first. Sephiroth is cool. Um, no, but I really like the way Sephiroth was portrayed, especially during the Midgar section, and that's one of my big complaints about the remake, which we'll get to after. But I like how he was just mentioned a few times as this legend, and then you don't even see him. You just come across later when you after you've been taken captive by Shinra, and you escape from the cells. You just see what he's done, and he's killed President Shinra, who has been basically the villain up until that point. And he like you're not even on his radar. You are so unimportant to this guy that he didn't even bother to like show himself to you at all. And that's really cool to me. I thought that was a really great way to introduce him. And then he obviously just gets more and more cool as the story goes on, and oh my god, his music is incredible. Um One Winged Angel off the OST, that is perfection. His final fight is also pretty cool. I like how he looks like a literal god in the clouds, um but oh yeah. And then oh I'm just, all my thoughts want to come spilling out, but I gotta slow down a bit. So yeah, one thing I can commend Final Fantasy VII on is the pacing. The pacing is airtight. It's it's a long story, but it's told it in a very dense manner, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't. I feel like I worded that a little weirdly, but hopefully that makes sense. Like it's a complicated story told in a simple way. It's told in few words, and I think that's fantastic. It makes it very easy to follow because there's not a whole lot of fluff surrounding the important bits, and that's awesome. I thought that was great. It made it very easy to follow. but without losing any of that depth. Um, and yeah, the pacing, like I said, is airtight. I feel like everything that had to be on screen had to be there, and if there's anything more, it probably wouldn't have worked. Not worked as well, I should say. One thing that I think could have been a bit more, could have been written a bit better is Tifa. Tifa somehow not saying anything to Cloud about his story not adding up. It felt a little contrived to me. I think the explanation is that she wasn't sure. She was thinking, like, was he at Nibelheim 5 years ago? I don't know, but I would think she would remember. I don't know. So if someone can clear that up, then that would be fantastic. But it definitely seemed a little, just a little bit contrived to me. But that's all right. Um, let's see. Any other major thoughts on FF7? I'm trying to think. Oh, the materia system is quite cool. I think that's one of the best, most well explained magic systems of anything I've ever seen. That's very cool. Like basically, if you're not familiar, um, materia is condensed Mako. And yes, I'm gonna call it Mako. Mako sounds fucking stupid to me, but it's condensed Mako. Mako is the life stream basically, and so it since the life stream is obviously the life stream of the planet, it knows how to manipulate. It has the knowledge in it rather to manipulate like nature, so to speak. So magic comes from it. It's it's very cool. It's a really cool idea. Um, and I really like the ending. I like the post credit scene a lot. It sort of leaves it a bit ambiguous. You don't know whether Holy stopped the meteor in time, or if it hit, or if Midgar is overgrown like that due to some other thing that happened later. You really don't know, and I like that. It's very cool. It's very cool. Um, and I suppose that brings me into the remake. Now, I have a lot of mixed. Actually, let me take a drink first. Delicious orange juice. Um, yeah, I'm just gathering my thoughts here real quick. Yeah, so the remake. I have some mixed feelings on the remake. I want to like it, and I think I like it. I think I like it, but I guess first I'll talk about the combat. I thought the combat was pretty good. Admittedly, though, I found it to be very frustrating at times, and I think it's because I'm very new to this whole JRPG thing, and whereas FF15 was for the most part an action game with some JRPG elements, FF7 felt like the opposite. It's a JRPG with some action elements, so I struggled a bit there. That being said, there's a few fights that were just straight up bullshit. If I'm being real, like in the second to last fight against Bahamut, I'm not too sure how to pronounce it. When he transforms, I don't remember if it's right as he transforms or if he does a little attack where he blasts the area where the party's standing. There's nothing you can do to block it or stop it from happening. And the first time I fought him, it wiped out everyone in my party except Cloud, who had like 200 health left. And before I could do anything, he killed me. And there was nothing I could do about it. And that was especially bullshit because the checkpoint there brings you back to the highway at the end of the bike chase. So you have to go do everything up till that again. You can't skip any of those cutscenes. I got really frustrated at that point. And there's a few other fights. I don't remember. Oh, fuck, the Hell House. The Hell House sucks. That was a terrible fight. I didn't care for that one bit. Um, Yeah, I think that's mostly it. Everything else, even if I did get frustrated at it, once I figured out sort of what was going on and how to take it out, then it was fine. My biggest complaint with the remake is, by God, it was padded. Holy shit! And this is not an original thought, I realize, but oh my God, the padding it was way too much. Like, like at first it wasn't that bad. Like the trek to the second Mako reactor you blow up, which I think is, oh excuse me, which I think is reactor 5. And you have to flip the light switches to divert the power and all that. That's not that bad, you know. And then the extended sort of escape sequence from the first Mako reactor you blow up, not bad, not bad. I don't mind that at all. Going to Jesse's house, great. That was awesome. That bike scene had some awesome music. But yeah, that stuff's great. One thing that was bizarre is Roche showed up in that section going to Jesse's house, and then he just never showed up again the whole game. I don't know what that's about. That was really bizarre. I felt like he was being set up to be the rival for part one, and Sephiroth was going to come in later, and I think that's how they should have done it, but unfortunately, it's not. So yeah, that stuff's great. What's not great is stuff like going to Wall Market, going through that collapsed freeway. Oh my God, that was stupid. The lab at the end in the Shinra building I did not care for. Pretty much I thought the game was great and the padding was not too bad up until you meet Aerith. That's when I was like, okay, come on, can we get to the fucking point here? Um, but yeah. Like in retrospect, now that I've actually beat it, it's not as bad as it was when I was playing it, but I still think it was too much. I would have much preferred just a straight remake of the content that was there, because like I said, the pacing was about as perfect as it could be. But then they wouldn't have been able to do the different story they're doing. So I guess I'll get into the story. I'm gonna get into the big part of the story, the big controversy last. First I want to talk about Sephiroth. At first, when he was just Cloud's visions, or at least implied to be sort of a hallucination, I thought, it's a little silly, and it takes a bit of way to see him, even if it is a vision. But at least it is just a vision, you know. It's he's like Cloud is in some way obsessed with Sephiroth, not the other way around. But then when he actually showed up and you actually fought him later, and then you beat him too, it gives me big Rey beating Kylo Ren in their first fight vibes, where it's like, oh well, we just beat the main guy. Now, now what? Like we didn't kill him, so I guess now we got to go finish him off. But even so, I thought that could have been handled better. Um, what else do I got? Oh yeah, those stupid ghosts. Like I get them. Don't get me wrong, and I'll get more into that whole stuff in a second. But oh my God, every time they're on screen for whatever reason, like you ever play something or you watch a movie or watch a TV show and then that character shows up, that recurring event happens, that whatever, and just for whatever reason you have this irrational feeling of fuck off, get off my screen. You know what I mean? That's what those ghosts were to me. And like I do get why they were there, and they are in some ways a cool idea, but yeah, for whatever reason I just could not stand the fuckers. Um, I hated fighting them too. That was never a fun fight. Let's see what else do I got? Oh, I hated the train yard sequence. I think just to go back to padding real quick, that was the worst section of padding to me. I hated that train sequence. Or the train yard sequence. That was really stupid. Really stupid in my opinion, I should say. Um, Anything else? I guess that's it. Other than what I've been saving, which is the big multiversal fate time loop sort of thing that's going on here, and And let's see. First off, my thoughts on whether I like that or not. I at first did not like it because I was playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, the remake of the game, you know. But once I sort of, I don't want to say came up with my own theory, but I guess after reading and watching videos on everyone else's theories and sort of using those elements to come up with my own interpretation and predictions, and then seeing it not so much as Final Fantasy VII Remake, but Final Fantasy VII the sequel. I like it more after that once I see it as the Final Fantasy VII sequel. And so my idea. Oh, yeah, excuse me. So my interpretation of it and my predictions, I guess, and like I said, I know I'm not the first person to say all this, so I don't claim any of these ideas as my personal theories that I came up with 100%. But I guess the stuff I agree with, I should say, is I think it is a time loop slash Groundhog Days sort of scenario. And I think the original Final Fantasy VII even sets it up because if you don't remember the ending, at least the pre-credits ending, the very last shot for I'm not even sure, I'd guess probably like 20 frames or so, is the very opening shot of Aerith in the alleyway with the green sort of energy in the air in front of her face. So I think what happened at the end of Final Fantasy VII now is when Holy failed to stop the meteor because it was so close. You see Aerith's energy from the live stream sort of come out, or at least I think that's what that was supposed to be, and sort of interact with Holy and sort of you're led to believe, at least I was when I played FF7, that it was reinforcing Holy to give it the more power it needs. But what I think now with the remake coming out or being out and having played the story, I think that was Aerith resetting the timeline to try and do things differently to stop it sooner or to stop it from even being summoned in the first place. And so so that's why those fate arbiter ghosts were there. The retcon ghosts, as Pat from Castle Super Beast calls them, because they're trying to keep things on track. But then Aerith sort of like remake timeline Aerith, I should say, puts it together sort of at the end what's going on and has to and then along with everybody else we defeat the what's that guy called, the arbiter of fate or destiny, arbiter of something, and basically say now we are on our own path, we are going to do it right this time. And it's a cool idea. I'm very excited to see where it goes from here. But I just it took me a bit in my head to accept that no, this is a sequel to FF7. This is not a remake, and it's kind of sad because it would be kind of nice just to have a faithful remake. But it's a cool idea regardless. So yeah, I'm excited for whenever the next part comes out, which hopefully isn't going to be too long, since I'm assuming they're going to use the same engine and they have a bunch of assets already created. Hopefully it won't take too long, but who knows? Who knows? Um, yeah. So I guess that's what I've been playing recently. The Final Fantasy games that I mentioned: FF15, 14, 7, 7 remake. If I were to rank them in terms of enjoyment, FF7's number one, like original FF7. Controversial opinion, I know. Um, 14 is hard to rank because it's different from the other ones, but I guess 14 would have to be my second favorite because just from the amount of enjoyment I got out of it, and I'm still not done it. And then 15, and then in last place is the remake, and it's just because of the padding. The padding was just too much for me. I just like at some point I was just like, I just want to be done this game. I don't want everything to take way longer than it has to, you know. So I'm hoping that the next one, since we're gonna have the whole open world in the next ones, or at least assumedly we will. Hopefully the padding will be less egregious because then, in addition to the main story, we're gonna have a whole bunch more side quests, a whole bunch more exploration. So hopefully the main story won't get as padded out. But who knows? Who knows? Only time will tell. Um, yeah. I think. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about. No, I don't think so. I think that's probably it for this. God, I wish I'd come up with a title for this earlier, because I don't know how frequently I'm gonna do this sort of thing, but I think I am gonna turn this sort of into a sort of Monday morning podcast style thing. Just talk about games mostly, but I'll talk about my personal life, talk about movies, probably TV shows, whatever the hell, whatever I feel like. But yeah, I need to come up with the title for it. If you watched this far, then thank you. That means a lot. Check out some of my other videos. None of my videos have any consistency whatsoever, but that's the great thing about having a small channel nobody watches. I can just make whatever I feel like, just rant, get my thoughts out there on various topics, whatever. But yeah. So thank you for watching, and then I'll see you guys next time on whatever the hell this thing's gonna end up being called. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and bye for now. Hope you have a good day.